Okay, so in this video, I'm going to teach you how to squat. So first thing we need to look at when we squat is our feet position. So our feet position, we want our feet just outside our hips, and then we want our toes pointed out slightly, not too much. We don't want to go really far out or anything like that. So we just want to go slightly out. Depending on how your flexibility is, will determine kind of where your feet go though. So once you go into that squat, you might notice your feet starting to shift more and more out just because you don't have that flexibility yet to get into a good squat with your feet more in, which is totally fine, but we want to try and work on getting to that flexibility. So feet just outside your hips, toes pointed out, and then what we want to try and focus on is as we descend into the squat, a few things is we want to push our hips back first, just a little bit, so we don't want to go too far back. So if I were to go from a side view, I want to be starting with my hips going back just a little bit to start the squat, but then they'll start to go more down as I go into it. So I don't want to go completely far back this way, all right? I just want to kind of have them start with my hips going back just a little bit, and then I'll go into the squat. A couple other things is I want to keep my chest up the whole time and my back flat, all right? So and I also want to make sure that my weight stays kind of the mid-foot. So if you were to look at your foot and that middle part, that's where our center of gravity is, and we want to keep the weight more towards there. So we don't want to go too far on our toes or way too far back on our heels. We want to kind of keep it mid-foot, that way we can press into the ground as we come back up. So as we get into a squat, I also want to make sure that as I start going down, I push my knees out to where my knees start going on the outside of my toes. So I don't want my knees to cave in this way, because that's going to be a bad squat. That's going to cause a lot of problems for your knees. So I want to make sure that my knees start going on the outside of my toes. They're not going to go way out here and bring my feet up, all right? I just want to make sure that as I squat down, they go on the outside of my toes that way. And then so my chest is up, and I'm looking forward. I can counterbalance with my hands, my arms this way, and my hips go below my knees, all right? So that's the big thing that people have questions on, or is going below your knees and stuff and that low into a squat bad for you? It's not bad for you at all. It's kind of what you're meant to do, but if you haven't been doing it and you don't have the flexibility and those things, there's a few factors that play into how low you should squat. But if you're pretty healthy and you've been doing squats and stuff like that, then it's not bad for you to get into that kind of deep squat. It's actually preferred just because of the different types of tensions that other squats can occur. So whenever we go into a different squat, like if you were to push your hips back here and stand up and stuff like that. So if you were to go to here, stand up, it could cause a lot of shear tension in your knees. So that's bone rubbing on bone, and that can kind of cause problems for your knees. So we want to try and avoid that. But how low you should squat. So if you start getting into that squat, remember I'm pushing my hips back, I'm going down, my knees are going out. And this is a good level for me, just because if I were to go any lower, you'll probably see my butt wink a little bit, so kind of tuck underneath my pelvic a little bit. That would be a point where you would want to stop, is right above that point. So if I start going down, I'll probably stop here because my back's flat and everything looks fine, and then I'll stand back up. So that point where your butt starts to wink and tuck underneath you, that would be a point where you don't want to squat and get too low. If you have the flexibility where your butt doesn't do that, then it's totally fine. If you watch a lot of weightlifting or powerlifting and those movements, whenever you get into a squat, they like to do the bounce. So you'll come in, you'll bounce out of it and come back up. That helps with lifting heavier weights and those things. That's fine for them, and most of the time it's fine for everybody as long as you have that flexibility and no previous injuries or anything like that, or any type of injury at all. Then it'll be fine to kind of do those things once you have weight and stuff and you're doing different types of weight movements with a squat. So that would be a point where you would stop, is if that butt starts to wink. You don't want to go that low. You can watch yourself on video, see where that point is. But as I go down, I want to make sure they're staying in the midfoot, so I'm not on my toes this way, all right? That'll cause knee problems. And I don't want to be completely on my heels back this way, right? I just want to be good, comfortable squat, and then stand back up. So I'll go from a front view, remember feet outside, chest is up, push my knees out to where they go over my toes, and then standing back up. Remember, we want to avoid caving our knees in and we want to try and push those knees going out. All right, so those are the basics on squatting. Once you get a barbell and stuff like that, things change just slightly. Shouldn't change too much, but they change a little bit as far as kind of where you have your chest and everything, if it's a little bit lower, a little bit higher, and those types of things. But those are the basics on how to squat.